1. So what we're going to do is say pupil, because it's currently 0 plus 1. That means that it'll actually not change its current size the way it currently is. I'm going to go and create our 0.3 value out of this, so it'll be val, comma, 1. So on the x and the y, pump the val variable into it, and on the x, just leave it as a scale factor of 1, and connect in this direction, say connect. And when I adjust the size of this now, you'll see the pupil get larger and smaller, and it's just going to get absolutely huge, essentially. And you can even see it's getting so big, it's being multiplied so much that going into a negative value makes it look like it's getting big again. So we need to put a multiplier in there. So what we need to do is we need to put some brackets around pupil, and inside pupil we need to multiply it by something. I happen to know it's got to be pretty small, so I'm going to start with the 0.01 and say update, and now we've actually got a pretty reasonable amount of pupil dilation going on. You can see that the pupil is dilating. It can still actually, at 100 we're pretty much going right to the edges of it, and at negative 100 we're going too small. So what we can do now is we can go back and we can actually put limits, better limits on the actual attributes themselves. So let's go and open our script back up, and let's have a look at our definition. Let's make sure def still equates to the definition. It does. Open our eyes, and or else we'd have to go and get it again. So now we can just go in here and say, okay, so the range is going to be something different than this, probably negative 80 to like positive, positive 80, let's say, to be able to do this. Now, instead of changing both of these, it's usually best to make some sort of local variable, and we'll call this local range equals and we'll call that negative 80 to 80, and then what we have to do in here is we just need to type in range. Now if we ever need to change it again, we only need to change one variable instead of a bunch of them. So now again, let's just redefine, and now our value only goes from 80 to 80, and there's our scaling happening. Now, one of the things that I've also done on this eye, let's see if we can see it, I actually dished the eye in a little bit, and see if I can pick it out there. You can see I've actually dished it in. Now this means that the center for the gizmo had to be placed in such a spot that I could scale it and it wouldn't end up being dipped in like this, because that's not looking very natural. So we actually do need to do a bit of scale on the z-axis. So let's actually go back to our setup for the wire parameter here, type in val and update it and see what happens, and actually you can see that it's pushing it right out a bit. So in the way that I've set it up, it actually had some dish to it, and I was actually expecting to scale it on all three values. So you can see that now it's actually dishing properly. So let's just go back to a control object, zoom back in here for you, and you can see that it is actually working quite nicely. And there's the whole thing being scaled up and down. So now that we've got one set up, I know I can just grab this entire bit of code out of that eye, go in and select the other eye, and exactly the same thing here. Let's go to wire parameters, modified xform gizmo scale, and let's go over and get the pupil, paste in our piece of code, and it should work on both now. But now what you might want to actually do is you might want to set it up so that we actually had a right-left setting, because sometimes you might want to actually scale them separately. What we need is a right-left spinner, and we could go and easily set that up, and we need to hook them up obviously, to individual controls. So essentially the same thing, just doubled up, and you can set up right pupil, left pupil settings, and we could get a nice right-left setting going. For the most part, though, that is the end of the pupil setup to have that all work. Now let's get on with targeting the eyes.